This is the final part in my 3-part series about my experience at my very first pop-up shop. In the first video, I showed you guys all the supplies that I gathered in preparation for the fair. In the second video, I covered what happened the day of and basically narrated what I was feeling in the moment. And in this video, I want to use this as an opportunity to reflect on all the things that I learned after the fact. For one, I realized the hard way that you can't do everything by yourself. I'm not sure why this is the experience of every entrepreneur ever, but we sort of have this mindset where we want to do everything by ourselves. We want to wear all the hats, and delegating is something that we really struggle with. Personally, I know I have this mindset because I don't want to be a burden on other people. And you know, going into this event, I had every intention of doing it all by myself. But fortunately enough, my friend Kyle, who is featured in the second video of this series, offered his help literally a day or two before the fair was set to happen. And if you watch that video, you would know that he is literally a godsend, because without him, I wouldn't have gotten my very first sale at this event. I wouldn't have had the guidance to keep that momentum going and get even more sales after that happened. And I wouldn't have gotten one of the last sales I had at this event because the customer that he was able to convince to buy the product ended up bringing her sister to buy the product as well. Another thing that made me realize that you can't do everything by yourself is that people go where people are. At one point in time, when the fair had gotten really crowded and there was a bunch of people everywhere, I had about 7 to 8 different people come up to my booth, started asking me questions about the product, and I was unable to give them the full and undivided attention that they each deserved, because while they were doing that, another client was giving me their credit card to purchase my product. So it got really overwhelming trying to balance the potential sales while also handling the actual sales I was getting. It just would have been really nice if I had one other person there who was able to handle the sales that was going on while I attended to the customers who had questions and, you know, basically close the sale on that end. And this happened several times. Every time one set of people would come in, that would attract other people to come and see because they were curious. They wanted to know what was going on and why people were here. They would just flood the booth in waves. Obviously, you know, I would have to pick and choose who I was able to give my attention to, and that would cause the other people to wander off. So in hindsight, I could have handled that situation a little bit better if I just had one other person there available to help me. And like I said, I'm going to repeat it again. People go where people are. If I had invited maybe 2 or 3 friends as fixed people who were already in the booth, that would have made my booth look way more inviting, and that way I would have had more people coming in and out consistently instead of the waves of people I had coming in every so often. And of course, as a group, that would mean we would be able to handle all of those people together. And the last point that I'm going to bring up under the umbrella of you can't do everything by yourself is the fact that I was unable to walk around and actually enjoy the festival. Yes, I know I was there to work, but at the same time, because I couldn't leave my booth, I couldn't walk around, I couldn't sit, I couldn't eat, and I couldn't use the bathroom, which is really bad. But besides my bodily needs, it just would have been nice to actually experience the festival. You know, there was live music, there was a live band, there was different vendors, there was food, there was so much to see, and I feel like I sort of missed out on that because I was alone and couldn't leave. On top of that, because my product prevents dresses and skirts from riding up, that would have been a fantastic opportunity for me to go and network with other vendors that also sell dresses or skirts, and we could have had maybe a cross promotion or participate in some sort of collaboration. And I missed out on those potential partnerships because I wanted to do everything alone. Yeah. Now, moving on. I'm going to be honest. I feel like at this event, I really struggled to connect with my target audience. If you've seen the video I've made on how to find your target audience, you would know that I share tips and tricks on how to find your target audience and how to basically figure out who they are and what sort of things they like. I sort of had a general idea of who my target audience would be going into this fair. The thing is, these sort of street fairs are more so geared towards family, which means a lot of the people I was planning to target were there with their family. They were there with kids, they were there with significant others, friends, so it was very hard to sort of isolate them in a sense and get them to break off so I can speak to them regarding some of the issues they faced when it came to dresses and skirts and shapewear in general. And don't get me wrong, I was able to make it work. But it's just that for the amount of money that I spent to be a vendor at this festival, and with just the massive amount of people that were actually there at the festival, I feel like I really struggled with trying to target my audience. And I feel like at a different event that was more geared towards my specific audience, I would have made way more connections, collected way more emails, and just made more sales overall. And at larger events like this, there's just so many people that nobody really wants to stop and interact because there's just so many people everywhere that if you do end up stopping, at that point you're getting bumped into, there's people all around you. You really don't feel comfortable just standing in place and talking to a stranger, so you just keep it pushing. However, I feel like if it were a smaller event, even if it only had 200 people, if that event was catered to people who were my exact target audience, it would have been easier for me to interact with these people because the pace would have been slower. People aren't really in a rush to get anywhere, so they're more willing to stop and talk to you and come up to you and learn about what your business actually does. And of course, I don't regret going to that festival at all. If anything, it helped me confirm what I already knew about my target audience, and it gave me the opportunity to market to other types of people that I didn't think necessarily fit into my ideal customer profile, but I was able to speak to them and see how they reacted to the type of product I was selling. And I got a whole bunch of compliments. I heard a lot of different opinions and advice on what I could do to make my product more enticing for those types of people. So if in the future I decide to come out with a new version or release a new product line, I have that feedback to help guide me in that product development. Moving on to the third point I would like to cover, I would like to talk about my interaction with the different types of people I met. Again, referencing my second video, I spoke about the different types of people I met and what that experience was like. And you know, looking back, because I met so many different personalities, if I had to give advice on the best way to interact with all these people, I would say that your best bet is to tell a story. I found it so easy to connect with people when we could both talk about something that we actually related to. Telling a story about my experience with the problem I was facing and how I struggled to come up with a solution gave the person I was speaking to the space to reflect on their own experience and understand why I came up with the solution that I did. And more times than not, that led to a sale. And to piggyback off of that point, another good piece of advice is to not come off as salesy. People know when you're trying to force a product down their throat, and they do not like that. So your best bet is to just treat other people like they're human beings and talk to them like you would any other person, because again, people buy from people, and when they understand your story, they're more than likely to want to support you. So when it comes to pop-up shop events, the best way to approach them is to put on a smile, be confident, and tell your story. Also, don't be afraid of rejection. Make sure you handle it with grace. There were so many times where people would come up to me, we would have a good conversation, and it would get to the point of closing the sale, and they would say, oh, you know, I don't have cash on me. Oh, you know, let me just go run over here real quick and I'll come back and order from you. And I never saw them again. but that's okay. Rejection is natural, so don't let it bum you out too much. On average, at that event, I think I got 7 no's before I finally made a sale. So with that in mind, that made me look forward to the no's because I knew eventually I would get a yes. It made me want to keep interacting with people because I knew I would be that much more closer to getting a sale. And when you're interacting and speaking with these people, don't be afraid to adjust your pitch and try to figure out which trigger words work best with your audience. For example, with my product, I heard a lot of, oh, I have an event coming up, so I really need to buy this product for that. And because I kept hearing that over and over again, I kept that in mind and used phrases similar to that when I would pitch to the next person that came up to me. Understanding my customers' why and motivations was a great launching pad in allowing me to tailor our conversations such that I was able to make them think about their why and they'd end up convincing themselves to make a purchase. Make sure you refine your pitch, especially when you notice that the same people are coming up to you, because that'll make the connection that you make with the next person that much more easier since you basically met that person over and over again. And finally, the moment you've all been waiting for, how much did I make? Well, sorry to burst your bubble, but I'm not going to reveal that exact number to you guys. Going into this, my one and only goal was to make back the money that I spent in registering for this event and on the supplies that I purchased. Preparing was already stressful enough as it was, so I didn't want to give myself the added pressure of trying to meet a numerical value, especially because it was my first time doing something like this at this level, and I wasn't sure what the outcome was going to be, the type of people I would meet, and if I was even going to be able to hold my own. So even though I'm not going to give you guys the exact number, I will let you guys know that I not only accomplished my goals, but I exceeded expectations and I made a profit, which was the best case scenario for me. Finally, the last point. Will I do this again? I do really enjoy pop-up shops and fairs. I love the people that I get to meet. I love the atmosphere and the energy and the smells of the food. That being said, I don't think I will be doing another one of these fairs, at least of this size, anytime soon, unless I have a team with me to help and more products to sell. For all that work and effort put in, I would just prefer to focus on smaller events, specifically fashion-based events that are more likely to have my target audience attending those events with less distractions and who are more likely to come up and, you know, speak, interact. I would recommend pop-up shops for small businesses that are just starting out. I feel like it's a fantastic way to make sales, grow your email list, and figure out exactly who your target audience is by literally interacting with them. And I know it'll work for you because it works for me. And if you would like to see how that went, you can go ahead and click this video right here, which shows what happened the day of my pop-up shop. That's all for me today, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!